Hi, my name's Rick Bloodworth. This is the Common Sense Christian channel. I'm also going to post this particular video on the Common Sense Christian Patriot channel, and you'll see why very shortly, because the topic I want to talk about today is the National Day of Defiance that's scheduled for June the 14th, just 4 days from the day I'm videoing this. What is the National Day of Defiance? They're also calling it No King's Day. But what is that? It's essentially a protest by those who are here illegally, who do not like the idea that now there is a threat of them being deported for being here illegally. And so there are literally thousands of protesters that are being bussed in to major cities, well paid by different organizations to go and not only protest, but to protest with force and violence. A lot of people will think that somehow this is a noble cause, that we're just supporting the immigrants, but understand what's at the root of all this. Over the last several years, there have been over 10 million illegals brought into our country. They've come into our country across the borders, but they've been assisted by our own government. And not just crossing the borders, sometimes they have actually been flown in on airplanes into airports around the nation. And now we have all these people here. For what purpose? An incredibly large proportion of those who have come here in recent years are military-aged men. Why is that? There's no question there have also been people with their families that have come over here that just want something better for their families. I'm not talking about this because that's not what this National Day of Defiance is about. This really does appear to be a concerted effort, a well-funded and well-thought-out effort by a combination of world leaders and some of our own politicians to directly attack the sovereignty of America. And by that I mean attack the laws that we have, the laws on immigration. This weekend, these protests are going to begin. And I believe we need to be aware of, first of all, that they are happening so we can avoid these places. But I also think we need to be aware of who is behind this, because it is not a grassroots effort like we had back during the 1960s. If you'll recall, during the Civil Rights Movement with Martin Luther King and others who were very much national figureheads and leaders of this movement, it was nearly all peaceful. Certainly the ones that Dr. King was involved with, but most of these protests were peaceful. There were some notable exceptions, usually on college campuses, but for the most part, it was just people seeing that there was something wrong that needed to be righted. But these people who were protesting were American citizens who were doing so. They wanted nothing more than the rights that American citizens were afforded through the Constitution. Now, look at what we have today. We have people who are here illegally, who should be arrested as soon as they are found and then deported back to whatever country they came from, unless they've committed crimes here, and then they need to be punished here. But instead of that, they're being allowed to gather and protest, many times violently. I imagine most of you have seen some of the scenes from Los Angeles where some of their streets are on fire from these protesters. The era where the news media could call them mostly peaceful protests is over, because people have seen into that lie and into that deceit. Los Angeles, the streets have been burning. Our president sent in troops into Los Angeles. The governor of California, who is part of this worldwide effort to attack the sovereignty of America, immediately sued the president for doing so. This has to do with an attack on our laws by people who do not belong here. The President of Mexico was commenting on what was going on in California, and her comment was that these people who are taking part in these protests were heroes, even though she knows full well that if Americans came to Mexico to protest, they would be imprisoned and sent back to America immediately, because it's illegal for people who are not citizens to be protesting, not only in Mexico, but just about every nation around the world. But not in America. In America, you can have people who are in the process of committing crimes and be deemed as having the right to do that. Understand this. Those who are here illegal have no constitutional rights. The only thing they have the right to expect is to be arrested and sent back to where they came from. But that's not what's happening. Many of these people were not only let in across our borders, but some of them were flown into various airports around the United States during the last administration. Now, I want to say that even though it was a Democratic administration, there were many Republican officials who turned a blind eye to it. We had to ask ourselves why. Are they enriching themselves in some way in order to allow this to happen in America? To allow known criminals to come into America and then just disperse and go wherever they want to? Well, a lot of these people are going to be reassembled. A lot of these, some millions of illegals that have come across in recent years are going to be the ones that are taking part in this Day of Defiance. There are going to be American citizens that are involved with that as well, to their shame, I believe. When you take a stand with somebody that you know is breaking the law, you have a problem. And they're being recruited actively by different organizations. I saw a video by one girl with purple hair that was calling for people to come and to take part to the tune of $1,500 a day. Other advertisements have offered to pay between $6,500 and $12,000 to protesters who are willing to stand strong and not to buckle under stress. What kind of legal activity involves getting paid $6,500 to $12,000 for a few days' work? Well, there's not any that I know of, but that's what's being paid right now, and this is the type of people who are coming in. There was a report yesterday of 25 chartered buses in Texas heading towards Austin. I don't know what state these people came from, but they are going into Austin to protest and to wreak havoc. Just last night, they shut down some of the streets near the Capitol, put 3 policemen in the hospital because they were throwing rocks at them. The district attorney in Austin is a Soros-funded district attorney. What are the odds that any of these people will remain in prison for very long? These are but 2 examples, Los Angeles and Austin, of some of the things that I believe we can look forward to happening this weekend on this Day of Defiance. So what can we do? From a Christian perspective and from a patriotic perspective, I think the first thing we need to do is to acknowledge that this is wrong, that this type of conduct, this rioting, this looting, this burning of cities is wrong. And we need to call it that. It has no resemblance at all to the civil rights movement of the 60s when people marched peacefully through the streets. This has much more to do with an all-out assault on American values and American freedoms. Here's what King David wrote about a man who attacked religious people in his day. The wicked man's name was Doeg the Edomite, and at King Saul's behest, he had put to the sword an entire town of people. It was a town that consisted mainly of priests. He killed them all. And this is what David said. In Psalms 52:1, "Why do you boast of evil, you mighty man? You who are a disgrace in the eyes of God. Your tongue plots destruction. It's like a sharpened razor. You who practice deceit. You love evil rather than good, falsehood rather than speaking the truth. You love every harmful word. O you deceitful tongue, surely God will bring you down to everlasting ruin. Well, one of the things that Doeg the Edomite did was after he had killed all these people, he boasted about it. He had not only killed the righteous, but he was proud of it. We have a lot of that today. We have a lot of people on both sides of the political aisle that are trying to take political advantage of what's going on. They are masters at dividing their own population, getting them warring with each other so that maybe our eyes will be off the fact that they're in the process of looting America. They're in the process of harming America. They've permitted so many illegals to come in, and now the time for consequence is coming, because these illegals are going to rise up and they're going to riot. Some of them have already begun. What will we do about it? Will we believe the lies and the deceit of one side or the other, saying that this is okay, that this is something that's peaceful, it's something that's loving? Or will we recognize it for what it is, evil? You see, in America, for the last number of decades, there has been a concerted effort to remove the religious freedoms that our founding fathers put firmly into place. During the last health scare crisis, many politicians shut down the worship for health concerns. A few years later, we found out that many of these very government people, or at least government agencies, were involved in developing this disease on foreign soil, and then they lied about it. These are the people that are saying that they're here to help us, that they're here to represent our best interests, but they're taking away our freedoms, slowly but surely. And one of those freedoms is our religious freedom. And the reason I bring religion into this is I believe it's time for Christians to take a righteous stand. I don't mean that we arm ourselves and go after the bad guy. I mean that we start supporting those who have the right to be armed and going after the bad guys. That we give them our moral support, our verbal support. That we vote for them. And I'm not talking about a Republican or a Democrat thing right now. I'm talking about voting for those who will help restore the freedoms that we once had and who will help put an end to what's going on. This is madness. Imagine a governor of a state aiding and abetting looters and rioters while they burn one of his major cities. What have we come to in America? I believe our problem is we have gotten farther and farther away from God. We've accepted sin just as a matter of course. We've resigned ourselves to there being things like abortion in America and rampant immorality, child molestation. You name the crime, you name the offense, no matter how bad, and we've just resigned ourselves to putting up with it. Many Christians have comforted themselves into not taking a stand, thinking that it's not Christian to take a stand. There comes a point for righteous men to stop deceiving themselves and to take righteous stands. What's happening right now is just at the very beginning. What are we going to do about it? Are we going to stand idly by and watch this once great nation fall into ruin? I mentioned not too many videos ago a man by the name of Alexis de Tocqueville, a French man who came to America in the 1800s to find out why America was doing so well. Was it the Constitution that they had? Was it the natural resources? Was it our broad expanse of land? Well, he acknowledged all these things were important. But he said it wasn't until he went into the churches and heard their pulpits thunder with righteousness that he understood America was great because America was good. But if we ever ceased to be good, we would cease to be great. I think we're viewing the things that we're witnessing right now because we have ceased to be good. And when a nation ceases to be good, it falls into decline. We need to stop that decline. Those of my generation need to have enough love and compassion and concern for our children and our grandchildren to start taking some righteous stands so that we can leave behind a nation that's worth inheriting. Because right now, we've let it fall into disrepair. The Constitution is a joke right now, not because the Constitution is somehow flawed, but because the people who are handling it are flawed. Even the way that many of our religious leaders are handling the Word of God has become flawed. We need to return to God individually first. If we have something in our lives that's wrong, we need to repent. We need to stop doing it. We need to ask God for forgiveness. And then once we've received that forgiveness, then we have the right to be going to God and asking Him for help with the difficult situations that we have today. And don't discount the power of God. He is able. But He expects us to take a stand. So, Christian men and women, patriotic men and women, where are you? Are you ready to take a stand? Or are you going to watch your nation burn? It's a fair question. It may seem too dramatic. It may seem like this is something that's not even a possibility, something to be looked at for amusement and then just go on with your real life. But I'm afraid if we do that for too many more years, we're going to find that the nation that was once great is no longer the same nation that we were born into. Something to think about and pray about. I suggest we do both. I appreciate your listening today. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. I may have a wrong take on this. If I'm wrong on anything, I'd like to correct that. But if you would, help this video get around by sharing it and liking it. Make whatever comments you like in the comment section. That'll help it get around as well. But again, thank you for listening today. I truly appreciate that. And I hope we'll see you next time. God bless.